to be with Google. He used to be with Google.
Same response, sir.
Patrick P. Shett. Patrick P. Shett.
Same response, sir.
He used to be with Google. He used to be with Google.
Oh, Patrick Pichet? Sorry.
Patrick P. Shett. Patrick P. Shett. He used to be with Google.
Same response, sir. Same response, sir.
Patrick P. Shett.
Oh, Patrick Pichet? Sorry.
Patrick P. Shett. He used to be with Google. He used to be with Google.
He used to be
Same
with
response,
Google.
sir.
Patrick P. Shett. Patrick P. Shett.
Got a great
Same
show
response, sir.
lined up
He used to
tonight,
be with
folks.
Google. He used to be with Google. Patrick P. Shett.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em, my friend. We're not hating the player. We're hating the game. Oh my goodness. That was a cough. Wow, I actually switched the music. Good evening, Rooch Weird. Nice. Getting ready to go live on ironbroadcast.com. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome everyone to the American Awakening, broadcast.com, and Twitter. Twitch, not on Twitter. All the time on Twitter.
Sidewalk up, make it loud. The Romeo Foxtrot, shall we dance? The film you are about to see was produced as a troop information film, specially prepared to alert the American soldier against a hidden enemy that can destroy morale, rob the soldier of the will to fight.
Innocent, sexy time encounter between a consenting man and my 15-year-old daughter.
The best defense against enemy propaganda is truth.
Pretty sure that 91st Cyber's involved with this.
The soldier who understands how enemy propaganda works is forewarned and forearmed. In this knowledge lies his strength.
They explained to the police officers that they were journalists.
They were journalists.
And we're only really here because thus far you've been right.
Thank you, Millie Weaver. God, she probably has to regret that.
Show me something natural like Afro bone. Show me something natural like ass with some stretch marks.
You go, Ali Akbar. Hello and welcome to the American Awakening. PFC Bergie reporting for duty. Hey, I got a dog licking my leg. I got a grape vape because I am now 48 hours without smoking a cigarette. So that's cool. If anybody tries to pull that, Bergie did a suicide thing, that would be like, no, he was fucking trying to quit smoking. You don't do that. Hello and welcome all to the American Awakening. PFC Bergie reporting for duty. Welcome all on Iron Broadcast.
Patrick
P. Shit. Got a good show lined up tonight.
Patrick P. Shit.
Huge show.
Be with Google.
Same response.
So we starting out tonight
Patrick P.
with
Shit. Patrick P. Shit.
PFC
Same
Bergie
response.
being banned on X.
Who used to be with Google.
You know, that new free speech platform?
Shit. Who used to be with
I have
Google.
no idea what it's for, but we're going to get into that, and actually got an interesting thing.
Patrick O'Shea.
I've already spoken to my attorney, which happens to be connected to that attorney, what is his name, Bill Bliss, that just had the stroke. So I got some interesting information to pass along, what I can. So then we're going to go into
Who used to be with Google.
we're going to go into Tori's tears in our weekly cryops segment with Denver Riggleman's a review of Denver Riggleman's
Patrick P. Shit.
whatever that was, broadcast
P. Shit.
product released on Midas Touch deliverable. Let's call it a deliverable. Okay, we'll do that. And then we're going to round things out with Trump's freaking deposition.
Be with Google.
Holy shit. I don't think most people have seen that. I saw it.
Be with Google.
Can't unsee. He did not go, just full disclosure, he did not go, what would that,
Be with Google.
full Michael Lindell
Same response, sir.
at all. He was very composed,
Patrick P.
Just
Shit.
brought a speech and read it for like 10 minutes.
Be with Google. Who used to be with Google.
I don't know. You want to be able to follow everything in full context. If you're on the left and you're hoping that Donald Trump gets buried, right, then you're going to want to know all the context, because trust me, the media on the left is going to lie to you whether or not they're winning or losing. They're going to just say, "Oh, we're winning," right? So use your own information, right? And then what do we got? So we got the Trump deposition, absolutely spectacular. But no, I got. We're gonna dig in also. Let me just play a real short clip of Riggleman's deal with Tory. Hold on here.
Do you trust the sourcing from Garrett Ziegler? Do you trust the sourcing? And you can look into this individual of Tory Morris.
Oh.
Do you trust the sourcing of Patrick Byrne? Do you trust the sourcing of any of those?
Mm-hmm. So I don't. And I discourage anyone out there listening to this not to as well, because I was engaged with them. And I'm providing this as a fact witness, right? Someone who has his opinion on these individuals, who was engaged with them over quite an extended period of time, with kind of a unique knowledge, in his own unique way. And yes, Shadow does say hello, although he's in a little bit of trouble for chewing something up that, I cared dearly for. Which, the only reason he did that was because literally yesterday I boasted to my daughter and her friends how he hasn't eaten anything that I actually care about. So that was kind of on me, and I did not find any wood that I could have knocked at the moment. I noticed that at the time, and I'm that's kind of a bummer for sure. But no, it was I was surprised when I logged into Twitter last night, and it showed up, hey, you're suspended, right? This new bastion of free speech, the community square of free speech. But unfortunately, if you're posting comments as a fact witness to people like Byrne or Tory or Riggleman, maybe it was the comments I made about Riggleman, not anything derogatory, just as a subject matter expert. Why would they ban me and not ban Riggleman? I mean, maybe it was, I did make like a few fat jokes about Tory. I mean, everybody does. And, but I mean, I'm literally a paying verified user on Twitter. I would suspect if maybe a fat joke was out of line, I might get a 24-hour or a warning, or maybe a 24-hour. No, this was like, oh, you're fucked. And if you want to dispute it, click here. Dispute what? They don't even tell you why the fuck you're banned. But I will go over in just a moment some of the last things over the last hours or so before my ban went into place, what I was posting. And it was very much challenging Matt Gaetz, Roger Stone, my ethics complaint with Gaetz. Now, Gaetz is very close to Elon Musk. He's a congressman, which means he's got access to that same phone that we know through the Twitter files that our congressmen have, our elected officials have. They can pick up the phone. They can say, we don't like this person. And, then Musk is going to have to decide whether he's going to allow that or not, based on, is this going to cost me a $1 billion contract with NASA, right? Because the government does hold a lot of sway over this man's influence over this man, even though he's the richest man on the planet. He's not going to stay the richest man on the planet if he doesn't do what as he's told, if he doesn't play ball, no matter what he says publicly. The fact he hasn't lost the NASA contracts yet tells you one thing: he's playing ball. I mean, can you look at the government, the way that it's been weaponized by both the left and the right? I can only be so sympathetic to Trump and his deposition when I know what the people around Trump were doing to distort our democratic republic, our voting process. So, without any further ado, the CEO, before I really go into like the stuff that and show some of the things that I was going over and posting just before getting suspended. Again, they don't tell you what you possibly could have said. I've made over 3,000 posts with that verified account. And so it's like, which one was it? Could you please narrow it down? So I'm going to start out by playing this a thing with Linda Yacario. She's X's CEO. This was at a code event about 6 days ago, I believe. And to her surprise, this other guy, Yoel, who is the wife of another dude. Okay, and that's cool, right? But you should have full context. And he seems like a nice guy. But when he describes his job as being like so dangerous and everything, I'm like, have you ever been to a fucking combat zone? But I get it. I digress. Again, he seems like a nice guy. But so he ends up speaking just before the CEO of X. And I found that to be quite interesting, especially in lieu of being suspended on Twitter for reasons that I have no idea, other than I highly suspect that it was for the purpose of Twitter, X, covering up their partnership with the government, the weaponization, the cover-up of Shadowgate, the cover-up of the American journalist Millie Weaver, and all of these things that were from Twitter, but, Musk spent $44 billion on the good and the bad. And this is the liability. I don't believe for a moment, you're going to hear in just a moment, this woman's and Yoel Roth make comments about how things have changed, but you also hear Yoel say things about what was happening, which is exactly what I was exposing as a DoD whistleblower in Shadowgate, right? It was exactly what I was exposing in my Ketam whistleblower lawsuit. So I am, by all definitions, a whistleblower. And I was banned on this amazing new platform because I was exposing my personal knowledge and understanding as a subject matter expert of the goings-on between the military-industrial complex, our government, and organizations like Twitter, Facebook, and I'm going to assume now X. So check this out. Here we go.
Oh, where am I going? I think
this way. Yeah.
This is Linda Yacario, CEOs.
Linda, thank you for
X,
being here.
Twitter.
Before we dive in, I have so much to cover. I probably have hours worth of questions, but I want to make sure to give you an opportunity to respond to Yoel Roth and his comments about an hour ago.
Chuckles. You're chuckling.
Just for full context, you joined Twitter in June, and Yoel did leave long before you got there. He was at Twitter for about 5 weeks after Elon Musk took over the platform.
Now, for those watching this on IRN, this is just like a really smug, woman that is that had kind of a situation thrown in front of her, whether or not it was accidental or not, even she questions. But just kind of giving a little more context to our friends on Iron Broadcast.
So you did not overlap. But he's describing
the girl who's talking right at the moment, the interviewee. She's kind of a hottie little redhead.
Terrible things that
and you'll see a friend of this woman's
happened to him, and also his experience at a company that months later you have come to run. I want to give you an opportunity to respond to him.
I'd be happy to respond. I think I've been given about 45 minutes.
Yes, and also
to
full
do so.
disclosure, as many of you saw, he was a very late addition to the schedule, a surprise both to me and Linda that he was added here. So not something that either of us were fully prepared for.
I think many people in this room were not fully prepared for me to still come out on the stage. But here we are.
But here we are. Nobody.
So
Two people
thank
clapped.
you for asking the question. And Julia's right. We have known each other for a very long time and have had a very long, deep, strong relationship. So
Am I the only one getting turned on by her describing her relationship to that hottie redhead?
when situations like this happen unexpectedly, maybe they were unexpected, we stay strong together. So we're going to move on. But I do want to address Yoel and I don't know each other. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. I work at X. He worked at Twitter. X is a new company building a foundation based on free expression and freedom of speech. Twitter,
Yeah.
at the time, was
Now, obviously, I'm kind of, doubting that, right? And by the way, I'm transcribing this and putting it into a letter that my attorney is going to be sending to Elon Musk, to Twitter. Well, I'm not suing them, but I'm trying to start a dialogue, a communication with them. I went there back in January of this last year, and I got nowhere. They won't return my calls or do anything like that. Let me do this one here. There we go. They won't return my calls or do anything like that. But I'm thinking maybe they will with my attorney Madhu, right? Now, Madhu is the attorney of record that turned in the lawsuit with that gentleman, that attorney Bliss guy. I know he's like connected to, the Flynn network and shit. I know what the fuck am I supposed to do, people? Madhu is a nice guy. I've known him for a while, and he'll at least be straight if I'm gonna get fucked. But and I wouldn't even hold it against him, right? It's like he's playing the same fucking game everybody else has to. But the guy that actually was kind of like leading, what do they call it, the main chair or something? I don't know. I watch like these law shows, but that guy who was like the main chair or whatever, I think his name was Bliss. Don't quote me on that, but he apparently had a stroke. As I understand it, things are still moving forward. Somebody else, it's like musical chairs. Somebody else now has that chair, and we'll see where this goes. It's a pretty serious lawsuit against defamation lawsuit filed that they have against Lynn Wood. Lynn Wood commented on the guy's stroke. Not quite sure that was the most Christian thing to do. Probably in a situation like that, best thing to do would just be to not post or say anything publicly. But that is not in. That's not even in the cards for our friend Mr. Wood. He cannot help himself, and he did. And I kind of thought it was a little disgusting. But I hope this Bliss guy gets better, even though I don't, he probably could be an attorney that ends up or has fucked me in the past. I don't know. But we can't play the game like that, my friends. We can't play the game like that. So I'm gonna let this continue here. But as you can see, X is now just a bastion of a free speech platform.
operating on a different sets of rules, as said by himself, different philosophies and ideologies that were creeping down the road of censorship. It's a new day at X, and I'll leave it at that.
Wow, that was just spectacular, wasn't it, folks? Can we get a? There we go. Hold on here. Hold on. There we go. That was beautiful. That was beautiful, my friends. That was beautiful. Jesus Christ. Wow. How did she ever get that job as CEO of X? She's just got to be like, listen, I'm just here for the money. I'm going to do whatever the boss says, and I could give two shits about your speech, about anything. I have what look at what they did to me, a fucking whistleblower, right? That's really trying to engage in that community forum that they're talking about, as a voice that, I had as many followers on the left as I did on the right, and oh my God, it's Task Force 22. I was just seconds from being honeypotted by Task Force 22 when fucking Elon Musk shut my account down. And that pissed me off more than anything. I was this close to being honeypotted by Task Force 22. Do you know how spectacular that would be? Elon, now you fucking cut us off. Hi, Task Force. How you doing? Yeah, got suspended. And there's no reason for it. And no, Task Force wasn't going to. I'm just playing. She wasn't going to honeypot me. I'm unhoneypotable. Unhoneypotable. Here we go. So I wanted to play here real quick a thing with Yoel Roth. This is a guy who was they were kind of freaking out about. But this is not. I'm gonna play another segment with him at that event. It's just a few minutes of that. But before that, I want to play this from MSNBC.
That I had with Twitter Files reporter Matt Taibbi on this show back in April. You just said this, we think it's the CIA. I said I haven't seen a single Twitter file.
I did.
The CIA tells Yoel Roth to take it down.
We showed reports that came through the Foreign Interference Task Force. We know it came through the FBI. We know that's the destination by which it came. But the origin of the document, we couldn't determine.
Now, Yoel, we know from The Intercept's Twitter Files reporting that Twitter on your watch was allowing the Pentagon to not just set up a bunch of Twitter accounts and online personas to push U.S. military propaganda in the Middle East, but also to conceal their affiliation with those Twitter accounts. So I just want to give you a chance to respond here. Were you also, as Matt Taibbi claims, allowing the CIA to use and exploit Twitter too, directly or indirectly?
So they were taking cues from the Pentagon. And now he's asking them, and these are all in the emails. And by the way, if you look at, and by the way, CENTCOM, and by the way, Atlantic Council, just go back to Shadowgate, where I was showing how the Atlantic Council was so incredibly involved in all of this. And, there's just no denying that there is a direct connection between the claims that I made in my key tam sworn in D.C. federal court, between the claims I made in Shadowgate, even though there was a dumbass Tory that was spreading misinformation, disinformation to discredit it, even though all these things considered, I was absolutely right about this. These guys right now are absolutely, hey, Iceberg, these guys are right now, and hey, Crypto, talking about the connections to CENTCOM, the connections to the Pentagon, the connections to the military, where they are pushing information now through, or were pushing information through Twitter, right? Now, I never came out and said that, and I'm not going to come out and say anything I may or may not have done while working with the DoD in any way, shape, or form. All I ever do is I talk about the capabilities we help develop for them, and then I do talk about the work or the commercial, the flyers that we have, the publicly available flyers that we have, and how these could be used to influence elections. And I talk about our connections to the McCain campaign and to Paul Manafort and to Roger Stone, and how Roger Stone was worked for a long time with Paul Manafort, right? And there we go, that one. And with and then Roger Stone comes out and fires Millie Weaver, right? Before she's even out of jail, orders Alex Jones to fire her, according to Alex Jones. And nobody seems to want to ask any questions. Then Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is creating havoc throughout Congress, right? And just got McCarthy, Potato Head McCarthy or whatever, kicked out. He was a Democrat, Republican from California, or Republican from California anyway. So, we'll be okay. And by the way, Democrats could have stopped that, but they didn't. They made a call, right? And I get it. They were pissed at some of the things that McCarthy or whatever had done or said, and like with the impeachment thing with Biden. Okay, I get that. But if they take over in 2024, I believe this is going to carry over, and Republicans can use that against them, or Democrats can use that against their own leadership, like AOC probably would have done, and Republicans will support him. Whereas before, the Republicans wouldn't have supported him. They had this little secret handshake thing going in Congress between the Republicans and Democrats, as they so often do. And so let me get back into Mr. Yoel Roth's interview here, though.
No. Let me be very clear. The decision that was made to temporarily allow a number of accounts operated by the Department of Defense to misrepresent their origin was one that, as soon as I discovered it and Twitter leadership became aware of it, we banned, and then we took the additional step of publicly disclosing it. We know about this campaign now because Twitter voluntarily shared data about it with the public.
They publicly exposed it after it was already publicly exposed. They did it to save their own ass. But are we supposed to assume that this didn't carry over from a publicly traded company that at least had some transparency or requirements of it to a privately owned company that has no requirements for transparency? And we're just going to assume that he's doing the right thing.
And exposed what this campaign actually was. Researchers at the Stanford Internet Observatory have published a study looking in great detail at exactly what this campaign was. I think Twitter's exchanges with the intelligence community should be concerning. They concern me. They concerned me as they were happening. But there's always trade-offs here. And I think the recognition that election security risks are a clear and present danger to American democracy and to democracies around the world requires platforms to engage in some of these slightly uncomfortable practices in service of broader security goals. And that's what we did. But
I don't disagree with that.
I believe we were able to do so without
I disagree with the way that they go about it.
Compromising on the fundamental principles of integrity, consistency, and the enforcement of our policies as they were written.
Last quick question to you. I want to ask about the role of the Saudis within Twitter. They are the second biggest investors in the site. They were also major players in the pre-Musk Twitter too. And last year, a former Twitter employee was found guilty in federal court of using the site to spy for Saudi Arabia on Saudi dissidents. How can Twitter, or X, claim to be a free speech site given the Saudis' involvement and given Musk's well-documented pattern of rolling over for foreign autocrats and authoritarians?
Now, let me stop that there, and let me remind you, as I'm questioning why in the world on this completely free speech platform I would be suspended without any notification or even reasoning for why, that General James Jones, the person that I was exposing, that I worked for and was exposing in my KETAM, in my DOD IG complaint back in 2015, and even talking about now and in Shadowgate. He owns one of the largest DC lobby firms that for Saudi energy and Saudi security. Tell me there's a larger tell me there's a more well-funded and well-connected lobby in DC, and I'll just say I'm calling bullshit on that. This is it, right? And so if you're General Jones and you've got a former employee of your small company trying to expose things like election influence that he is a witness to and trying to expose, as well as like their use of clearforce.com for not just building predictive behavioral models like the Minority Report to decide whether or not a contractor gets a clearance because they are predictively likely to steal or leak. But they've carried this over to the commercial aspect, to the public sector, where we know that all these different organizations, CNN, AP, are all clients. Fox are all clients of ClearForce, which means ClearForce is the one who is tied into their HR department, building these models, determining who gets a job and loses a job, basically across all of mainstream media. I see that as a huge problem. I'm speaking out about that as a fact witness, an employee of 8 years. And then I'm banned on Twitter because on X, I'm sorry, Twitter's gone, right? This is X. It's a new world, my friends. It's a free speech platform. Oh, wait, unless you're trying to expose the relationship as a fact witness between our government and X and Twitter, and I'm assuming X, right? So, like, I do have right now, or this weekend, I'm putting together a letter for Madhu, and Madhu is going to send that into Twitter. I may even include the CEO that was on here, because I'm going to be transcribing her very words and including it in there. And this is not a lawsuit. I'm not here trying to threaten or take on the world's richest man. I just want an attorney to serve them a request for a handful of interrogatories that they that involve basically Twitter, not even X, right? And they are X now. They aren't Twitter, so they should be open to this. But that's what I've been trying to get since January when I flew there and I went there. And, I had my other account that was banned on January 6th. It had 60,000 followers to it. Banned on January 6th. And I wasn't even involved with the people that were there. I was demographically there, geographically there, but I never went anywhere near the Capitol. And the only people I was calling out on Twitter was Ali Akbar, Alex Jones. The people, Roger Stone, the people we now know were actually inciting it. Those were the people I was calling out. And Twitter banned my 60,000 person account, which I believe they did because, again, look at they're talking about their connections to the Saudis. And how are we certain that there's no way General Jones couldn't just freaking pick up the phone or send an email to one of his Saudi friends and say, listen, we need to shut this guy up. He's going to fucking expose us, right? Hey, thanks, Task Force, for gifting that to Iceberg. So let this continue here.
It's a very real risk. I testified at the trial of that former employee, and I'm very glad to see that conviction. I think what happened when the Saudi government pursued Twitter employees to get them to exfiltrate data was a very real risk to vulnerable people in Saudi Arabia on Twitter. And it undermined the effectiveness of the platform, its role in the world as a critical conduit for free speech by vulnerable people. I worry that the defenses that Twitter built up following that incident have been eroded under Musk. I worry that the company's investment in addressing state-backed disinformation, including from the Saudi government, is no longer happening. And I worry that the financial chumminess between the company's executives and the Saudi royal family will make it harder for the company to crack down on these efforts in the future? It's hard to know, especially now that Twitter
I'm gonna
isn't
say
a public
no.
company.
Real quick, Tony said X and just about every other social platform serve as a huge data mining operation. Totally agree. X also runs a huge AI machine learning operation right under everyone's noses. Absolutely true. And not only that, he talks about how AI is gonna fucking destroy us. So a bit of a hypocrite there. He must think we're completely stupid, and we kind of are in many different ways. And then Tony goes on to say, and the increase of influence and propaganda only helps it learn how to psyop us harder. Actually, wow, very well thought out. Very well thought out. Thank you for that. So let me continue.
There's less scrutiny, there's less auditability, and there's less visibility into the company's choices and actions. I worry about what that'll mean.
Here we go. So, yeah, that was great, Tony. So, what I wanted to do, and I'm getting kind of long on this. What do we got? I got Tory. Okay, we got to get into Tory's cry-ups here in Riggleman. And then Biden tied to that. I'm running a little bit long. I actually I wasn't anticipating putting this into the show this week. And again, thank you everyone, for your support on Patreon. Gonna have to update the. Well, actually, look, I don't think I ever even put the Twitter on my thing because I never actually trusted it would stay. But no, I appreciate everybody at t.me/The American Awakening. You can go there, rumble.com/BurgieBit. I don't even, do I not have my Patreon on there? Patreon.com/American Awakening. I appreciate your help because it does take time and such to put these things together. And if I'm not doing this, I'm not doing my other job, which I actually have another job, which I can make much more an hour and not have to focus on all of this shit that destroys your brain from these people. Because actually, that's how they want. That's how they. That's part of their weaponization process, right? Is just drawing people in through different ways. So, on that note, I'm going to jump into the next one here, which is Tory's Tears.
Hey, everybody. Denver Riggleman here, former congressman, former senior technical advisor to the January 6th committee.
So before, just for my friends on IRN, this is this is maybe about, I think, how long is this? About 9 minutes long. I played the segment with Tory in it, but I wanted to go through this and add a few things of my own thinking with some of the things he's putting out there and just some additional context so people can have a better idea of understanding what this seemingly sweet, nice gentleman who would clearly never tell you a lie, just all great and chummy and just makes a little sipping whiskey on the side. That's great. But no, I just think there's other things that people should understand, which are public information. And even though I agree with most of the stuff he puts out there, I have a lot of problems with some of the people that are funding him. So I stepped out and said that about Millie and Gavin when they started taking money from like Byrne and Giuliani, or at least hitting him up for it. But they were actually taking money from him, like in D.C. rooms and all these things, flights out to L.A. And so they're kind of like bought and paid by these people. I called Millie and Gavin out when I saw it. I'm calling this guy out when I see it. Even though I agree with a lot of what he's saying, I agree with a lot of what Millie and Gavin are saying, but I also think it's important to understand that he is or was or is funded by Hunter Biden's attorney, Kevin Morris, the same guy who I believe tried to set me up with a fake journalist, tried through that journalist to get me to take a $10,000 like bribe, and which I turned around and screenshot the DMs and sent him as an update to an affidavit that I had sent to the Department of Justice, right? And yeah, that was stupid. No one is going to do anything. The Department of Justice is fucking completely corrupt at the top, bought and paid for by the left, which is why Trump's getting his ass handed to him with the Department of Justice now in every different way, shape, or form. So, but let's continue with Mr. Riggleman on his use of data and analytics. And I just like to quick remind everybody that I have a background about 3 years or more. I was a PASS SW and SPSS administrator, which are IBM analytics products. I was an admin for Analyst Notebook and even other different programs that kind of brought all of this data in to provide a common operational picture for our command on the ground, which is exactly the same background this gentleman has, only he has way more college experience, way more degrees, and all of this stuff. I do have something to say on this, and I'm not completely stupid on it. I'm a 112 Mensa. Those that get that. So, let me get back to Mr. Riggleman.
And in bad lighting here in a hotel room, I figured I had to do this spontaneously. And even though I'm on travel, I think I owe it to individuals and to people out there through the Midas Touch Network to talk about the Hunter Biden lawsuits against Rudy Giuliani and Garrett Ziegler. I want to talk.
Now, if anybody doesn't think that the Midas Touch Network isn't basically an arm of the DC lobby firms, left and right, just like everybody else out there, then you're kidding yourself.
Talk about how the media has actually let down most of the people following this case, or all of them, but also how non-forensic data can be ripped apart and examined using forensic techniques, and why it's so dangerous for individuals to meddle if you have real forensic professionals looking at data.
Well, real professional, looking at data that aren't being funded by Hunter Biden.
I'm also going to tell you why.
Or that aren't being funded by Patrick Byrne or Phil Waldron or Mike Lindell.
Hunter Biden team is being so aggressive. But first, let's start with the data itself. I'm sure many of you have seen reports from CBS or WAPO where people saying that, and most of those people being those who think Hunter Biden's laptop has even created COVID. But you've seen people talk about these publications validating.
Wait a minute. Somebody thinks that his laptop created COVID. Was he being, people, he's like, here, first, listen to me. Here's my credentials. Then goes into something that really doesn't need to be said. Do you need to elevate people who are just clearly batshit crazy? I don't think so.
Hunter Biden's laptop, and even talking about the whistleblowers and the FBI validating a laptop. Well, I'm sorry to say, folks, that a lot of those publications like CBS and WAPO, and especially the New York Post, were simply wrong. Now, they could have been wrong by accident. They didn't know exactly what the question was or how the data was supposed to be categorized. But when you talk about validating a laptop, you have to have certain codes or certain algorithmic ways to validate that data. When you read the articles from CBS and WAPO and even New York Post, which is the worst of them, let's be honest, you can see that they never identified it as coming from a laptop. Why? Because it's impossible. There is no forensic evidence or forensic chain of custody to indicate in any way that any data in the public sphere that's been attributed to Hunter Biden's laptop is actually from the laptop.
So I 1000% agree with that. And I can proudly say, and by the way, full disclosure, I spoke with Mr. Riggleman and his team of operatives his team of contractors. I'm guessing maybe even Kevin Morris was in the room when I was talking shit about him. Oop, my bad. But Jesus, man, I tell you. Let me continue. We got to keep going.
Now think about what I just said there. Also, we also know now, since now the Hunter Biden team has the John Paul MacIsaac data that was given to Rudy Giuliani and given to CBS. We also know that that data had no forensic chain of custody, and it was not a forensic copy of any type of laptop or even multiple devices that we can see. It was just a copy paste of files, more or less. There is no forensic chain of custody. And when Rudy Giuliani got that data bloomed everywhere to multiple people, dozens of individuals who touched Hunter Biden's data in one way or the other, wherever that data came from. Now, obviously, I'm not going to say there's not one laptop out there that would be ludicrous. But to say that there's not multiple devices out there would be ludicrous also. We know that there's different data sets in different portions of the internet attributed to Hunter's data or to Hunter's laptop. Again, that should be alarm bells for everybody. But it's boring. It's not as sexy as Hunter Biden's laptop as part of a globalist or deep state conspiracy theory, or part of child trafficking rings, or part of money laundering, or part of improper influence, or part of Ukraine, or part of China, all the sexy stories that people want to report on. China. This is our issue. The media was using sourcing from data that had no forensic chain of custody and using people that were involved with J6. Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani, Garrett Ziegler, who worked for Peter.
Listen, real Bernays, if anybody caught anything from Hunter's laptop, it would have been like some sort of sexually transmitted disease. Some sort. I'm not thinking COVID. I'm thinking herpes.
Navarro, part of the J6 conspiracy lunacy. Jack Maxey worked with Steve Bannon. Guo Wingji. You're talking about all these individuals.
They all touched the data task force. Tori touched it over and over. She let her daughter watch her while she was touching it. That's kind of creepy.
That are either in jail, some have been charged, most are being sued. You have those that have lost their law licenses, you have felons. All of this is happening. These are the sources that the mainstream press have used.
You know, the daughter she was suing InfoWars and shit for abuse of some sort.
To push the Hunter Biden narrative. So no forensic data and sources that were exactly the same as the J6 conspiracy push.
So totally agree. No forensic data. You know, clearly there's forensic data there, right? Is he suggesting that like all those videos and shit of Hunter's huge schlong were just AI created? You know, in fairness though, if maybe they were, and he's actually got a little tiny white guy's dick. You know, if I went out on a porn streak like that and had to have all these things released, I'd be just having AI touch me up a little bit. Maybe bring in the roof and extend the porch a little bit. Remember, task force, I need 9 weeks. Before officially honeypotting. So back to our friend, Mr. Riggleman.
Mainstream media is asking the wrong questions. They're saying, is Hunter guilty? Guilty of what? That's the thing about data. It can be very boring. What I'm trying to tell everybody here is that data, ones and zeros, make the best witness. Validated data is what we need to use for facts-based insights.
Actually, there's a 1, a 0, and then an ECC, an error correction digit. So I would argue.
Now, I'm not on the legal side, just on the data forensic side. We've delivered our data. But now that we've had the data from John Paul MacIsaac, we can also tell you unequivocally that either it was worded badly, that maybe CBS had forensic individuals that were just looking at data rather than what device it might have come from. In the New York Post, which I'm going to have another Midas Touch Network hit, where I talk about that ridiculousness when it comes to the United States Secret Service and the ridiculous reporting from the New York Post. But we have to talk about the media being complicit. Many of them
include your number in the mail,
using sources and data that are unverifiable.
if you
Now,
can.
when you talk about using non-forensic techniques against forensic data, that's something we did. And that led us to the questions that we needed to ask to get to where we are today. Once you see data in the, say, outside in the public that's supposed to come from a device, but it can't be proven to come from a device, that means that we have to look deeper. So now that we do have forensic data, the Hunter Biden team has more forensic data than anybody else out there, we can actually start to compare and contrast. And that's why you see the aggressiveness from the Hunter Biden legal.
Actually, if he's going to be honest, he'd probably have to say that, and by the way, shout out or hat tip to PFC Bergie for providing us with a few extra burners that we knew about maybe or didn't know about and now do and have branched off to many different things. But you're not going to hear that.
Team. Again, I'm sorry I'm doing this really.
Wait, did Task Force get suspended? Did you get suspended, Task Force? Oh, you didn't want me to get suspended alone. I'm going to cry.
One take right here in a hotel room for Midas Touch. But I want people to be aware that when you see reporting or
Did you get suspended, Task Force? I got to stop this here. I got to hear this, because if you did, we could do this together. And I'm not saying that inappropriately. I'm just joking, people. Come on, I got to do that.
Order saying that the Hunter Biden laptop has been validated, we can say that the FBI has a laptop. What we can't say is that the data in the public sphere, any of it that's attributed to a laptop, is from one laptop or from multiple devices or even from hacked data. We know data has been manipulated. We know data has been added or it's been deleted.
Okay, Task Force, we need to talk, right? Because that sounds like some bullshit to me. Right? Am I right? Did you yes or no, did you capture my address before you got suspended? Let me know. If you didn't, you got my email, I think. Send me an email, update our information, because we need to talk, if that's the case. Because I do have my attorney, Madhu, who's going to be sending this in. You've been very outspoken. People like Flynn. I don't think, and although you were not blue checked, I don't think I was. So we can really, So we can really, I think, make a stronger case. And like I said, I got Madhu. I spoke to him today, and he's totally cool about sending that in for us, his letterhead, with the force of an attorney, right? And I'm not saying about like suing him, but I'm saying about I think we deserve we definitely deserve some answers right now. And if he's going to be some sort of beacon of free speech, right? And I get it, not everybody likes what I have to say. Not everybody likes what Task Force has to say. But that's a private company that's allowed to do whatever the hell they want. If they think that my comments or your comment or Task Force comments, if they think that that's bad, all right, then it's their right as it's his right as a private company to not want us on there and not allow us on there. But if he's blocking us because of a because he's trying to protect his company from garbage back in the Twitter day. If he's trying to protect Flynn, if he's trying to protect Matt Gaetz, if Matt Gaetz called in, if Matt Gaetz or somebody else's cyber army people, we need to know everything about what resulted in both you and I being taken down simultaneously, task force. That is 1,000 times, that is 1,000% a fact right there. We need to find that out, and I'm going to find that out. And so you've got to, you're right. You're right. I got you on TikTok. But you're not supposed to, and only my daughter's supposed to know that I have a fucking TikTok. And if you go there, you'll see I never post to it because, you know, I have my image to uphold. Thank you, task force. Everybody's going to know that I fucking have a TikTok. You're like, hey, wait, aren't you supposed to promote those? Yeah, I'm not so great at this. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to become the next Dan Bongino. So let's continue with Mr. Riggleman.
All the data sources that we have that were supposedly either pristine or used for reports like Marco Polo or the 4chan data set have no forensic tail. They do not exist. And that's by using forensic science.
Well, that doesn't mean...
Now, on the legal side, do I know how it's going to turn out for Hunter when it comes to some of these things that he's been charged with, whether it's gun charge?
Task force, look at the... Because you were not able to start this earlier, look, it looks like a damn aborted fetus in my behind me here, right? It's a lava lamp. It's supposed to be really cool, like with my tie-dye shirt and my pot-smoking manatee, but it looks like an aborted fetus. And I blame Elon Musk for that, too.
Charges, whether it's other charges of that nature, I don't, because that's the criminal side of it. On things that were already down the road when I came on. But I can tell you this, is that disinformation is real, and destroying somebody's digital identity is something we all have to worry about. Even if somebody has done something bad in the past, doesn't mean that they should be judged for that in eternity, especially if you're an addict.
Okay, can I just say I completely agree with that?
I think that's the one thing I've learned about this, is to really have more compassion for individuals. But I want to tell everybody here, when you're looking at reporting that's going on right now, the first thing you should ask is, what's the source? The second thing you should ask is the data validated? And the third thing you should ask is, do they even understand the data they're looking at? So again, thank you very much. It was great to be here. I know this wasn't probably the longest one for Midas Touch, but I wanted to ensure all of you that whatever I put out there and our forensic team puts out there, it is validated data. It is something that will stand up in court. And right now, what you're looking at what's happening to one individual, or you're looking at committees trying to link Hunter with the president on certain types of crimes, you can be curious. You can maybe be skeptical.
Really?
You can say that maybe all.
Well, I thank you very much for allowing me to be skeptical about the fact that the information you're putting out is in part funded by Hunter Biden. No, thank you for allowing me to be a bit, you know, and he just now comes out here. We're going to get to this in a moment, where he's just now going to come out with calling out Tory.
All politicians do this. Maybe this is how we are. Maybe it's all about influence peddling. All these things you're allowed to think. But I would ask you, as somebody watching this, that has a baseline.
Sure, you'll just have to remind me, Tony.
And of wanting to know the truth, what is...
I couldn't even tell you why. I can't keep all these things straight.
The source. And if I say the names again and the pictures pop up, do you trust the sourcing from Rudy Giuliani? Do you trust the sourcing from John Paul MacIsaac?
Wait, can we just... Yeah, no, I could. It looks completely trustworthy. Nobody is going to slip anything by Mr. MacGyver here.
Do you trust the sourcing from Steve Bannon? Do you trust the sourcing from Bob Costello? Do you trust the sourcing from Garrett Ziegler?
Look at the picture they use of Garrett. It's like, did I shit or did I fart? Don't trust a fart.
Do you trust the sourcing? And you can look into this individual of Tori Morris.
Oop. She shit.
Do you trust the sourcing of Patrick?
And you can look into her, right? Really? Wow, that was it? Now, I've been making the argument that Tori was actually kind of funded. And this, again, it's just my opinion. Just throwing this out there because I'm just overwhelmed and astounded by the reach and the influence and the amount of people that are kind of bought and paid for by people like Kevin Morris, the guy who paid $2 million. Just, wow, I'm some great friend of fucking Hunter Biden. By no means was it because of my family, because of his familial relationship to, with his dad. I'm just out of the goodness of my heart going to pay off this $2 million IRS debt, right? So, come on, people. We're trying to clean up the government on both the left and the right, and we're not going to get it done by just going after one side.
Byrne. Do you trust the sourcing of any of those? And as you saw those pictures pop up, what's the first thing you think of?
Well, I think of an AI filter with Tori.
Is it valid source? It isn't. Again, look at the sourcing, look at the data. Here's what I can say to you. As you watch the lawsuits come out, read them, and you can see why there's a lot of confidence in what we're seeing in data. This is a new world. The information war is a new forever war.
Well, that's true. Well, it is on the WWW, but I would argue if we ever could implement the National Public Internet, we could solve this problem, right?
I'm happy to be a person that people.
We would at least solve that problem with like terrorists and shit being able to just join up on the National Public Internet's forum, which would be very much like Twitter or any of these other things, because they couldn't, right? But they can still have their World Wide Web, but at least people would know, right? And let the government do whatever the hell they want out there as far as monitoring that. Just not, just follow the rules on the National Public Internet if we could ever get that going. So, what else have we got here? Sorry, had to do it. No, I think that was for me, Iceberg. I think probably I've blocked Tony some time ago. I have no idea why, and probably just pissed off at something. I'm surprised I'm 2 days now without a cigarette, smoking my little vape thing here, so I'm surprised I'm as calm as I am tonight. Let's move on quickly here to the next one. Joe Biden is tied to Hunter's crimes. We gotta get into this here. So
the Republican-led House Oversight Committee says
hold
it
on
has
here, hold on.
significant new evidence in its case.
Okay, so just kind of set this up a little bit. This is a CBS News thing where they're talking about evidence with new evidence being brought forward connecting Hunter Biden to a bunch of stuff. So the vape is a viable way to quit cigs. Yes, it is helping me tremendously. So that's what this is. It's a CBS News thing. It's a couple minutes long. I'm going to interject in it, but there's a reason why. Look, if you could see this on Twitch, you'd see I got a picture of Hunter Hankey, Hunter Biden, as a huge piece of shit. I believe the cousin of Mr. Hankey, and he's holding a laptop in one hand with what looks to be a picture of his poop from his laptop, and in the other hand he's holding a tray of crack, and he's smoking a cigarette. Shout out to Leatherface for creating that beautiful work of art. This is CBS News.
Against Hunter Biden.
The House Ways and Means Committee issued a subpoena for the president's son's bank statements on Monday. Committee Chairman Jason Smith says the subpoena reveals that Hunter Biden received 2 wire transfers from Chinese nationals back in 2019. It also notes that President Biden's Delaware home was listed as the beneficiary address for both of those wires.
CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge joins us now here in Studio 57 to discuss. Catherine, always.
She is a fucking robot or what?
It's great to see you. But explain the importance of what happened today.
Well, under the IRS code, there's something called 6103. 6103 is a reference to a process.
She's like Sophia.
That allows IRS employees, others, to bring highly confidential tax information to outside parties. It's very closely guarded. In this case, they were able to bring it to the House Ways and Means Committee. This is a GOP-led committee.
I'm trying to get permission from Starkiss to model my Japanese sex robot after Task Force. No luck yet from Starkiss.
And the records came from the IRS whistleblowers who've both been interviewed by CBS News.
The Heritage model is pretty reasonable, but it just talks too much.
There's an internal process, but now it has been voted out, which simply means that it now is publicly.
I would definitely disappoint her. Even a robot.
Available. And the good news there is that we can look at it independently and reach our own assessments.
And Catherine, we have seen you literally going through these documents while you've been sitting here on set, circling things. What is standard?
Now, did they have to pick a Republican representative to do it that had no ability to actually argue the points that he was trying to make, and B, looks just like that Santos guy that everybody thinks is like a lying piece of shit? I mean, he does. I look at him and I'm like, wait, did they put Santos up there? What the fuck are they doing, man?
Out to you, what are the Republicans saying are of importance in these documents?
I always feel it's important to go to the documents because they can tell their own story and speak for themselves. Right. One of the things we've seen in this Republican-led investigation is kind of an evolution.
Now, what she's saying about documents, she's not referring to the to the data on the laptop that our friend Mr. Riggleman was talking about. She's referring to the data that was collected by the IRS agents from his DMs.
Of the story. Now what they describe is an alleged scheme by Hunter Biden to use the family name to enrich the family. And you'll recall recent testimony where they talked about using...
That man is hung like a horse. Can we just all acknowledge that?
The brand, and the main part of the brand they alleged was Joe Biden. Well, in these records here, they identify a message from an Apple iCloud from Hunter Biden to his uncle, James Biden. And the language that is used here is, I'm quote, I'm willing to sign over my family brand. He uses that word, brand. So I think that's pretty significant. We'll have to see what the reaction is from Hunter Biden's attorneys, the White House, and Democrats.
His attorneys, which one? Kevin Morris? That jacked up one? Abby Lowell, the one that sent me a litigation hold notice, which I cooperated with fully. Then yet was still after that was attacked by our friend Kevin Morris, allegedly. Jesus. You know. I wonder if it was the Hunter Hanky.
But it does seem noteworthy.
I actually like when I started out the conversation with Abby Lowell's people, I kind of started it out with apologizing, saying, y'all are probably going to notice out there that I never posted any pictures of his sex pictures, but I did post pictures that I found on his drive that he took of his poop. And I said, you know, I hope you guys can, I'm going to throw that right out there at the beginning. Hope you guys can forgive me on that. And they were like, oh no, we're totally cool. Thanks for all your help. That's a swear to God on my father's grave, true story.
that this language is being used and
Anybody who
identified in
knows
the
me.
document.
And those are his own words, his own description.
Based on this
Hunter Biden,
record.
based on the document. Now, besides the tax information, though, what are we learning about the criminal investigation into the president's son?
It's a great question because all of these records, there are two tracks. There's this income, foreign income track, and then there's also the investigative track by the FBI and the IRS. And in these new records, there are allegations that go to the idea of preferential treatment for the president's son in this investigation. There's an email from a very senior person in the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, and there's discussion about the execution and the drafting of a search warrant. And in that document, it says, quote, there should be nothing about political figure one in here.
Okay.
And according to the committee, political
Completely
figure
normal.
one was Joe Biden. Now, the question is, was that prudent not to have that name in the warrant for sensitivity reasons? Or was it another indicator that this investigation was not being run like it would be for any other taxpayer?
Kind of going with B on that. You know, his father's been in politics 50 years, was the vice president at that time, wasn't in office, but between elections after 50 years in office, you're one of the most talked about candidates for running for president in 2020. There are people that are going to be betting on horses, even like, Hunter's horse, which he's hung like a horse, right? So we can agree. We'll call this horse Hunter, and so, and I guarantee you, it's not just places like Ukraine that he was injecting himself, which we know going back even years before this, Hunter's selling basically what I consider to be weapons, which are he's selling. He was at the very least that we have on record that he was selling ballistic vests to the military, right? Okay, well, if that's not all he's selling, that's not all he's bidding on, right? He got that contract. So and those are being shipped off to war. They protect our soldiers so our soldiers can go and kill more of the enemy, right? So nobody's questioning these parts of it. And so what I wanted to discuss is, I hear so many people say, oh, well, there's no evidence showing that Joe did anything wrong. Well, I'm sorry. Yes, there is. And this is as someone, I was 10 years an Information Assurance Security Officer, IASO, with the Department of Defense, both in uniform and as contractor. That is an official title I had written into every contract or job that I had, MOS that I had. And so I believe I should be considered as a subject matter expert in this. So, but I can say certain things, but let's listen to like what clearancejobs.com has to say, which I used to be registered with them. I haven't had my clearance in years, but here we go. Since 2015. So this is clearancejobs.com about Whoa, my bad. Here we go.
Once an agency jumps through all the necessary hoops to promulgate a legally valid rule, the rule is consistent with the statute, or at least not so inconsistent with the statute that a court will strike it down. The agency has used all of the necessary procedures. The agency has explained why it adopted the rule. It's written the essay that courts demand that it write. Valid rule. Once out there, that rule functions legally exactly like a congressional statute. If
the appearance of impropriety is actually a violation of a U.S. government rule,
there are criminal penalties attached.
Which can have
violation of the
penalties.
rule can trigger criminal penalties. It can result in civil penalties, sometimes fines of $1 million a day in cases of some of the environmental regulations.
Damn.
Those agency rules can preempt state laws, laws enacted by state legislatures inconsistent with federal agency rules fall just as those state laws fall before congressional statutes.
I tell you, our friends on IRN are missing some of the most high-end graphics you could imagine, and that's a joke. You're not missing nothing.
In the event of...
It's like out of Schoolhouse Rock at best, set to worse music.
Conflict. If agencies make law through adjudicatory decisions rather than rules, those adjudicatory decisions can have what we call res judicata effect in federal court, just like other court decisions can. That is, matters that are necessarily resolved by the agency in its adjudication, those can't be argued again, even if you move from the agency, executive officials, to a court, Article 3 judges. So valid agent.
I'm a 112 Mensa, and I can't even pronounce adjudication. So, whatever he was. So, this guy knows what he's talking about. Government regulations can have legal consequences.
Agency rules, valid agency orders have the same legal effect as things that come out of Article 1 institution of Congress, the Article 3 institution of the court.
Oh my God.
So a great deal turns on what it takes for administrative agencies to jump through all of the necessary hoops to get these rules and orders out there. That's why we have long courses on administrative law. These things matter.
Okay. Let me do this here. Stop. Hey, stop. So, hold on here. Is that it? Yes. And let me do this. Shadow, go lay down. Telling you right now. So, these rules are binding. They're laws. Government regulations, government rules are laws. Now, I'm going to show you next. I'm going to show you next where our government, all right, where our government regulations with clearances have potentially criminal implications to them. You have to follow rules. Even applying for a clearance, you have to follow rules. Now, before someone says, but Bergie, you're so smart, the president doesn't need a clearance. He's the certification authority. And senators and Congress people don't need, they are granted clearances by their very winning of their office, which, my God, to me just seems like the most insane. It's just the most insane thing I can think of. That just everybody's just, if you win an election, and it's so easy, if you can win elections by influencing them, using social media, using different ways that I talked about in Shadowgate, that have very serious consequences, right? No clearances. But what they do, instead of having clearances, is and this is the argument I'm going to make, they swear an oath to the United States. Whether you're a congressman, a senator, a president, vice president, you swear an oath on a Bible, or I think fucking one of them did a Quran. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, but okay. And, but you swear an oath. And so, to uphold the laws and protect the country and everything. So how would our government, or how would anybody ever, what's the parameters for that? Okay, you're swearing an oath to protect the government. Well, how would you be able to define what protecting the government is? Oh, I have an idea. How about following the same rules and regulations that you would have to follow if you had a clearance, right? Because all of those rules are designed to protect national security. So even though you don't need a clearance, you have a clearance by the very nature that you cheated on your election. See how bad of an idea that is? By that very nature, you have clearance. So let me do this here. Ow, get down. Go lay down. So by that very nature, you have a clearance. So let me play this here real quick, okay? Hold on. This is titled Bad Things Happen to Good People. And it's like a thing put out, sponsored by clearancejobs.com.
Bad things happen to good people.
She's got to
The
play the
expenses
crack.
that come with an illness or losing a job can quickly add up and lead to bankruptcy or foreclosure. Can that affect your security clearance? I'm Emmeline Smith, and I'll tell you here on Clearance Jobs TV.
Was she have a whole stack of what with all the? Was she down at? Was she recording this at Mar-a-Lago? Was that all just like a stack of classified documents in front of her there? Ooh.
The DoD's Office of Hearings and Appeals says that in 2007, about half of security clearance denials involved financial considerations. Why? Having too much debt increases the temptation to commit unethical or illegal acts, like, say, stealing, in order to get the money to pay it off.
Okay.
In fact, most Americans who betrayed their country did it primarily for financial gain.
So we have Hunter, where we know he was dealing at times with, an attorney had to bail him out for $2 million with an IRS debt, his crack habit, all of these things, which again, I'm not knocking his crack habit, but I'm talking about national security right now. I'm talking about rules and regulations, things you're required to do, documentation you're required to submit, things that any responsible person who's sworn an oath to protect our country and our national security are going to do. And if they don't, they should be subject to the same rules and regulations and penalties that come along with violating those rules and regulations.
So a high debt-to-income ratio and excessive indebtedness are listed as potentially disqualifying conditions. But they rarely come into play unless there's also past or present delinquent debt or obvious signs of unexplained income. On the other hand, low credit scores aren't a potential disqualifying condition because factors unrelated to debt can affect them. While significant delinquent debt is a security concern, don't panic. The Office of Personnel Management doesn't automatically expand investigations for financial issues unless your credit report shows current delinquent debt totaling $3,500, declared bankruptcy within the past 2 years, or declared bankruptcy within the past 3 to 5 years with evidence of current credit problems. Both bankruptcy and credit counseling can be considered positive efforts to get one's finances under control.
Can I ask, okay, so if his company was selling stuff to the military, can I assume that his company had an FSO, a facility security officer, which handled clearances and such? Can I assume then at that point that Hunter would have had a clearance of some sort to be able to acquire and even bid on some of these contracts? I'm saying.
What is important is the underlying reason for the bankruptcy or credit counseling.
Just to answer that question, in most cases, yes, you should.
Almost all past financial problems can be successfully mitigated if a person has acted reasonably and responsibly in meeting their financial obligations.
Yes, very true.
How do you effectively explain financial problems during the security clearance process? That's next time on Clearance Jobs TV. Until then, I'm Emmeline Smith.
Thank you, Emmeline. Here we go. Don't be jealous, task force. Emmeline was just helping me out. So, the last one I wanted to dig into here before we go into Trump, into his deposition, is called Listing Your Relatives. Again, by clearancejobs.com TV.
Clearance Jobs news site, but I'm not sure if we've addressed it in a video update. It's one that came into my inbox just a few weeks ago, and someone was asking about listing a relative that they weren't in contact with. This comes up fairly often. The complexity of family situations means there might be close relatives that you have to list on your SF-86 that you don't actually A, know,
SF-86.
or B, have very much information about. In any of those cases, it's always best to list as much information as you have.
Okay, how about and sorry for pausing you, honey, at that particular point. But how about, for example, Joe Biden being responsible with the oath that he swore by following these same rules and regulations that someone who wasn't elected into a position has to follow, because these rules and regulations were designed to protect our country. And they were the reason you swore an oath, right? So these things are important. So I'm just saying, when people say that Joe Biden wasn't responsible or didn't do anything wrong with his son Hunter, I just say, yes, he did, because he did not, from anything that I've seen, properly file or properly notify these things going on in his personal life, which sometimes sucks doing it, but you do that. And as long as you do that, by the way, these people, the OPM and shit, they usually don't give a shit. You're doing it, right? Sometimes they will. Sometimes it will give you some slack, reporting stuff like you're supposed to the FSO, your facility security officer. But that's how you maintain national security. And sometimes it sucks. Most of the time it doesn't. And almost all the time, when done properly, it benefits us. It helps keep other Americans alive. It helps keep our sensitive information compartmentalized, as we've all agreed pretty much it should be. But I guess saying we all agreed, that's not accurate. But through our representative democracy, we have agreed that these are the best regulations and requirements to protect data, and the best way to manage this data on who is able to see something and who isn't. Some people want complete transparency. Others want greater opacity. Am I wrong with that?
Without necessarily needing to dig too deep into that, the biggest way that you can get yourself in trouble is by simply failing to list a relative. And no, like this individual asked, just because you're not in contact with them does not mean that you do not have to list them. If there is some reason that you're concerned about listing a relative, maybe they have a criminal background, maybe they're a foreign national, maybe there's another issue there, you can certainly consult with a security clearance attorney or get legal advice if that's something you're concerned about in terms of a criminal implication there. But you can't simply get out of listing that person, and the government will find that out. There was a
I think she winked at me, task force.
Doha case that we've written about over at our Clearance Jobs news site, where an individual actually failed to list a brother who was incarcerated, repeatedly lied to background investigators about this individual being his brother. Clearance was denied, did not work out in his favor.
Okay.
The government will find out about those relatives.
Right. Okay. So I'm also who else do we know just filed for a clearance? Tori's daughter. And well, she's joined a unit that she will soon be authorized, or probably will be required to have a clearance. If and when that day comes, she's going to have to be honest about, like, Tori. She's going to have to be honest about all of the batshit craziness that was going on in her life around family members, ex-deep, her father, all of these things, right? Who's in prison right now for for molesting a 10-year-old. So, you know, I mean, so what she's saying here is a lot of times people will just, oh, we'll leave that out. We won't mention these things. And a lot of times they do. I did not. I put the fact that I smoked weed before, you know, and it was funny. I wrote about this in my book, and we got a couple minutes before we're going into Trump here, but I wrote about this in my book, how when I was talking to the guy that was doing my information initially, I think it was for my initial SF-86, even at MEPS. But yeah, I don't know. It was going to the record where they said, "Have you ever smoked marijuana?" And I said, "Yes." And he's like, "Well, more than once?" I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "More than 10 times?" "Yes." And he's like, "More than 20 times?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I'm wondering if he's gonna go like up and then he goes like 50 times, and he gets like 100 times, and he's like, "I'll just put down more than 100 times." I was like, that works. Thumbs up. It's probably accurate. Almost certainly accurate. And so, you know, had I not listed these things and gotten a clearance, that could be used against me. By listing them and not doing them, because I wasn't smoking weed or doing anything illegal when I held my clearance. By not doing those things, you protect yourself from the potential of blackmail or people blackmailing you into giving up information to protect our country. And if there was any one more of an example of a threat, of a vulnerability within our national security, how could it be any greater of an example than Hunter Biden? Again, not trying to call him out or judge him for what was probably amazing sex all the time with all sorts of people, or you know, the drugs and stuff. He's doing great, although I kind of made my point with that earlier. You can't be doing that if you're doing government contracts and stuff. I'm not doing anything with the government right now. I got my card. I'm legal, right? But these people aren't. They hide that stuff. That's one of the things, in fact, that Hunter's going to court for right now, because he was hiding the fact that he was an addict when he was trying to purchase a gun, and he checked a box on there that said he wasn't. And that's the argument he's actually trying to make right now, and God bless him. I'm supporting. I hope he wins that argument, and we'll see how that goes. But until then, we're going to jump in now to even though we have a little bit more with this young lady, we're going to jump in now to President Trump and his deposition, because we got a little less than a half hour to go, and this is too good, and I'm going to want to interject in it. So here we go. And I did the best I could with the audio.
Going on the record at 9:38 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on August 10th, 2022. Please note that the microphones are sensitive and may pick up whispering and private conversations. Please mute your phones at this time. Audio and video recording will continue to take place unless all parties agree to go off the record. This is Media Unit 1 of the video recorded deposition of Donald J. Trump, taken by counsel in the matter of financial statements investigation for the state of New York, Office of Attorney General. The location of the deposition is 28 Liberty Street, New York, New York. My name is Zeph Koda, representing Veritex, and I am the videographer. The court reporter is Linda Greenstein from the firm Veritex.
Lava lamp is flowing great right now.
An oath. I am not related to any party in this action, nor am I financially interested in the outcome. Counsel and all present, including those
His hair's looking great, isn't
have
it?
been noted for the record. Will the court reporter please swear in the witness, and then counsel may proceed.
He looks pissed. But he's...
Do you swear or accept? Speak the truth, the whole truth.
That's the best
I
that's
do.
coming in. There you
Good morning, Mr. Trump. My name is Letitia James, and I'm the Attorney General of the great state of New York. Before we begin, if everyone would please silence yourself. Appreciate that. I wanted to begin with some preliminary rules around this, if you don't mind, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Wallace, who will conduct this examination. Mr. Trump, you've testified under oath many times.
Yes.
And so I take it you are familiar with the ground rules on for how testimony proceeds. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'll skip that part of the introduction. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. And are you okay?
Just gonna skip
right
that
now?
part.
Okay, good. What I will do is explain some
good, man.
differences between the procedures in a civil deposition and the testimony we are taking today, because this is an investigatory proceeding. You do not have a right to have an attorney with you in this investigation, but I have agreed that your attorney will be present today. However, this examination is not the same as a.
How is it that he doesn't have a right to an attorney in there? That just kind of blows my mind. Okay. Wow.
Deposition in ordinary civil litigation, and your attorney's role will be limited to consultation with you in order to give you legal advice regarding privileged matters, if any, or your right not to incriminate yourself.
You'll hear me say things that I disagree with this Letitia woman, not because I'm necessarily at all times trying to, in maybe even in any time supporting something that Trump is saying. But I will at times support his right to frickin' say it. Yeah, one of the things I like to follow as of recent are like the First Amendment auditors and shit. This is something I kind of personally believe in, and I was just really surprised to see that. Wow, we don't have to let you have an attorney, but we're going to let you have an attorney. Well, that's some bullshit right there.
Notwithstanding any objection by your attorneys, you are still required to respond to any questions unless your attorney specifically directs you not to answer. Anything you say in this examination may be used in a civil proceeding, and that could include a civil enforcement proceeding or a criminal action. Do you understand that?
I think so.
Is that a yes?
I don't know what I did wrong, but the answer is yes. I do understand.
Thank you. You have the right to refuse to answer any question if a truthful answer to the question would tend to incriminate you. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yes.
And any willful misstatement by you may constitute perjury. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Finally, this investigation is confidential. We request that you not discuss this matter. Your testimony here today.
So for those that can't see it on IRN Broadcast, again, thank you very much for joining the American Awakening on IRNBroadcast.com. But for those that can't see, this was back from August 10th of 2022. So it's been a while. And he apparently wasn't, for a time, able to even speak about that, which kind of surprises me. And again, he was, very much a candidate for president, and just he was a former president, which, again, you have optics that, at least in my opinion, are kind of relevant in ways that I believe weaken our government, weaken us as a country to our adversaries.
And any documents that you have produced or may produce in connection with today's testimony with anyone other than your attorneys. Do you understand that, sir?
No. But when you say confidential, we're not allowed to talk about this to the press. So.
Correct.
I believe what she means is what happened in this room, the details of what happened in this room.
Okay.
Obviously,
okay with me.
Yeah. The fact that it happened, yes, but not the details. Neither you nor anyone acting on your behalf has the right to obtain a copy of the transcript
Interesting.
of your testimony here today from the reporter. And neither you nor Veritex are permitted to release copies of the transcript to anyone other than representatives of this office, the office of
Veritex was the
extensive
videographer.
note-taking or any attempt
Crappy audio
to create
guy,
a
too.
transcript of the proceedings here by you or your attorneys is not authorized.
I'm like, this guy did a crappy job, or the copy that Letitia released from the Attorney General's office released a crappy ass audio version.
And will not be permitted.
Kind of turn
Are you
people
taking
off.
any medication or drugs of any kind that make it difficult for you to understand or answer any of the questions today, sir?
An aspirin.
Nope.
And are you feeling okay today?
He said an
Yes.
aspirin.
Sick today? No. Okay. And do you have any conditions that could prevent you from giving full, complete, and truthful answers to any questions today?
No.
Nope.
And is there any other reason why you cannot give full, complete, and accurate testimony here today?
Well, I'll go into
Well,
that.
I mean, I'll be doing it.
No.
No, other than what I'm saying.
Okay. I'm not going to turn it over to Kevin. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
He smiles
Good morning,
at
Mr. Trump.
Letitia.
As the Attorney General mentioned, my name is Kevin Wallace. Sitting next to me is Alex Finkelstein from our office. And sitting next to him is Samantha Stern, who's a paralegal with our office. They're going to be assisting me during the day today. I'm going to take a moment just to correct one thing from the read-in, is that we go off the record not when both parties agree, but when the Attorney General directs that we are off the record. During these proceedings, the Attorney General controls the record. Mr. Trump, what did you do to prepare for today's examination?
Very little.
Very little.
If you'd like, I could read the statement, but very little.
Well,
Read the statement.
can we go?
Yes, he would like.
I will now use my moment to go off the record.
Thank you. Sorry. Just to be.
Okay, so they go off the record.
Off the record.
And you know this guy is trying to argue right now for him not to be able to say what he wants to be able to say.
We're back on the record at 9:45 a.m.
Mr. Trump, I understand you have a statement that you wanted to read into the record.
Yes.
Would you please feel free to start at any time?
Thank you very much. This is the greatest witch hunt in the history of our country. There has never been another president or perhaps even another politician who has been persecuted, harassed, and in every other way unfairly treated like President Donald J. Trump. What Letitia James has tried to do the last number of years is a disgrace to the legal system, an affront to the New York State taxpayers, and a violation of the solemn rights and protections afforded by the United States Constitution. She developed a political platform and made a career out of maliciously attacking me and my business before she even understood or was elected or reviewed one of the millions of pages of documents we willingly produced.
And, you know, again, I've shown me, you know, I'm a former Democrat, right? I'm a Republican now because of people like this, like Letitia, that will run on a platform of just destroying her, another person on the other side, weaponizing our government against someone who is a politician, right? And I just think it's wrong, right? I just think it leads down a very bad path. I think we have to have some, and these are just, again, I keep saying, I think, my opinion. I believe we need to have some sort of standards or just, and I don't believe that you should be able to get out of something by just saying, I'm going to run for president. But, you know, for sure, after you've become a president, you've represented our country for 4 years, you should continue to be shown, a modicum of respect as being an American president. I do with Obama, even though I've been calling out his national security advisor for years, and I don't really agree on the positions he's taken at all. He went just batshit. He lost me like back in like 08 or 09. He lost me very quickly. As I was working with General Jones and understanding how these people work, right? He lost me. So let's continue on with Trump, and he's got about 8 minutes left, which will give me some time to inject in between and then close out the show. Got about 8 minutes left. Again, what he's being charged with, apparently, like, at least, like, all of the people that she's using, like banks and such, that she's saying he over exaggerated money to and such, these loans were paid. And it just, and no one's ever, to my knowledge, been convicted or tried or even taken to court or anything for this type of crime, ever. So if you're going to take a former president and the leader and the current leader of the opposition president, whether, you know, regardless of what's going on, I believe there should be standards. I don't believe you should just be able to use something that's never been used before to be able to take down this horrible person. But in doing so, it's the baby with the bathwater. You're fucking destroying our country, right? And I have no more trust with someone like Letitia than I do with Phil Waldron, right? Which I call out on our side. So I hope people give me at least some leeway with my criticisms.
These documents. James proclaimed that she,
I'm
quote,
disgusted
looks
about
forward
what happened January
to going
6th.
into the office of Attorney General every day, suing me, and then going home. This is during her campaign. She announced that she was obsessed with, quote, taking me on, and that her eyes were set on Trump Tower, quote.
The jury is going to be able to see this, by the way. The jury will be played this entire thing.
Trump Tower. She even assured her supporters as an election promise very strongly that, quote, we're going to
This is Trump's testimony. He's not going to testify in front of, he's going to take the fifth. He's already said why. He's going to play this to the jury, though, because this was recorded for that. I mean, I'm not an attorney. Please tell me that you know, but I do watch a lot of like Law and Order and shit. And it seems like this would go through under a Law and Order situation.
Definitely sue him before she even
help me out,
knew
task
anything
force.
About me. We're going to be a real pain in his ass.
You've played an attorney
He's
probably
going to know
before.
my name personally. And she claimed I was on an illegitimate, and that it was an illegitimate president. Quote, illegitimate president. In her AG speech, she promised to, quote, shine a bright light into every dark corner of Trump's real estate holdings. Shortly thereafter, she vowed to, quote, use every area of the law to investigate President Trump and his business transactions, and that of his family as well. She knows nothing about us. This is when she knew absolutely nothing about us. It was very unfair.
Yep, this entire thing's going to be played to the
This
jury.
whole thing is very unfair.
My
As
opinion.
a pretense for commencing her bogus investigation, Letitia James relied on the testimony of Michael Cohen, a convicted felon and liar. The Southern District of New York astutely described Cohen as a man who, quote, repeatedly used his...
Am I wrong? Or is he going to be able to just play this in court and not have to take the stand and respond to claims he's making, which I believe are actually probably true about Cohen. He's not a very good person, but he's a guy that Trump hired.
power and influence for deceptive ends by engaging in, quote, extensive, deliberate, and serious criminal conduct consistent with a, quote, pattern of deception that permeated.
But he didn't witness or participate in any criminal conduct as my attorney. I made sure he stayed nice and straight.
His professional life. This was in a long, many-page statement by him. It only gets worse. This is the witness, a stone-cold loser, real loser, that she used to justify her obsessive
loser
work, her obsessive investigation of me, even though
it's a nice
he
suit.
got in civil and criminal trouble for representing himself on a taxi cab company that he had and other things,
Not
and
as my
also
attorney.
others as a lawyer. I once asked, if you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? I was asking that question.
Going to agree with you on that, Tony. Tony says Trump has not traditionally been good at choosing staff, lawyers, or inner circles. However, his ex-wife did a great job on that one place that she did for him.
Now I know the answer to that question. When your family, your company, and all the people in your orbit have become the targets of an unfounded, politically motivated witch hunt supported by lawyers, prosecutors, and even the fake news media, you really have no choice. We cannot permit a renegade and out-of-control prosecutor to use this investigation as a means of advancing her political career. New York deserves better, and this country deserves better. Being a prosecutor is a very important thing. This is a vindictive and self-serving fishing
Can Trump's people call Letitia James to the stand? Anybody? Task force, if you're still in the group, although I know you're working, so if you're not, cool. Anybody have an answer on that? I think that's an interesting question. Again, if you're on the left and you just think Trump's already lost because you're listening to Rachel Maddow and all these people saying, "Oh, we got him now." Well, they've said that before, right? 2016 ring a bell. Same thing to Fox. 2020 with the Republicans. So I wouldn't rule him out, and unless somebody can show me how this is not going to be allowed to be played, and how he can still sit there and take the Fifth, and how his attorneys won't be able to call Letitia to the stand because she did make these claims before while she was running for that office, right? It's going to be a shit show, but they know that, which is what kind of disgusts me about the whole thing. If you're going to win, don't be worse than Trump to beat Trump. Be better than Trump and beat him that way, and then you'll gain the trust and respect of your country.
expedition, the likes of which this country
Enough
has
of 'em.
perhaps never seen before. If there was any question in my mind, the raid on my home 2 days ago, Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, Florida, by the FBI, just 2 days prior to this deposition, think of it, wiped out any of that uncertainty. I have absolutely no choice because the current administration and many prosecutors in this country have lost all moral and ethical bounds of decency.
That's
Anyone
what
in
I've
my
experienced.
position not taking the Fifth Amendment would be a fool, an absolute fool. One statement or answer that is ever so slightly off, just ever so slightly, by accident, by mistake, such as it was a sunny, beautiful day when actually it was slightly overcast, would be met by law enforcement at a level seldom seen in this country, because I've experienced it. The United States Constitution exists for this very purpose, and I will utilize it to the fullest extent
There
and
you go.
defend myself against this malicious attack by this administration, this Attorney General's office, and all other attacks on my family, my business, and our country. Accordingly, under
There you
the
go.
advice of my counsel and for all of the above reasons, I respectfully
go.
decline to answer the questions under the rights and privileges afforded to every citizen under the United States Constitution.
You notice how he's never said, I'm pleading the fifth, I'm taking the fifth. I don't hear him ever use the word fifth, which would be used on Maddow and all the shows. Oh, look, he's pleading the fifth. Listen, tell me if you hear him say it.
This will be my answer to any further questions.
Include among the rights and privileges afforded every citizen under the United States Constitution. Does that include the Fifth Amendment right to avoid incrimination?
Yes.
His attorney said it for him. Who's not even supposed to be there.
So your counsel?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
agree with your... and he said, do you agree with your counsel? He was saying, yes, I agree with my counsel. He never said, the fifth. That was brilliant. Please, come on.
I will just note for the record that was a lengty statement. Obviously, we disagree.
Just note the record that was a lengthy
Accusations,
statement.
But
Yeah, it was.
Today's proceedings moving. I'm going to move on to my questioning.
So, okay, listen.
So, Mr. Trump, I take it you are not going to answer any questions about your preparation today with your counsel. Is that correct?
Should I answer with... And we're in 5 minutes
Should I
left of the
say
show,
this,
my
or
friends.
should I respond to that?
Okay, there you go.
For all of the reasons provided in my answer, which is incorporated herein in its entirety, I decline to answer the question.
Mr. Trump, the focus of our investigation.
So if you want to go, you can find it online. There's about another maybe 20 minutes or so of them asking questions that they know he's not going to answer, but they want to be able to use in court. But he's going to be able to use this in court too. And so I would just argue that, this is going to have an impact on a jury. I'm sorry. And I'm not seeing, what he's saying there, even though I have my issues with everything that happened on January 6th, my issues are that I have my personal experiences with were people around Trump doing bad things, inciting the people that actually did the bad things, but struggling to be able to get any information to Trump because of a firewall that was built up around him. So that doesn't entirely, what I witnessed doesn't fit with the entire narrative, right? And again, I'm not at all, I want everybody involved with the incitement of January 6th to be held accountable. I'm sick and tired of these grandmas that were freaking pushed in there being charged, charged with crimes, while people like General Flynn, people like Roger Stone, people like Matt Gaetz, people like Alex Jones, Ali Akbar, and others that were on across the board with different very public mainstream media and everything called out as being the people behind the incitement of the events of January 6th, which, by the way, were all included in my key tam. Most of them, or had my key tam in January of 2020 been allowed to go forward, would have exposed those people before even Shadowgate. So, I have a lot of questions. We're getting in the last couple minutes of the show. Task Force, I'm going to reach out to you. I want to, I always remain a gentleman. I just joke with Task Force. She's actually always been a very good, decent, nice person to me, and never sent me any, porn or anything. Shit, that kind of sucks, but okay. No, I'm joking. I wouldn't even, nothing. People have no idea what's actually going on. I don't trust what's happening with the timing. That blows my mind that Task Force was shut down. And so we need to talk about this, Miss Task Force. You have things going legally with attorneys already. I know this. And so I want to talk to you about working with Madhu, and taking this forward together. I'd rather, if I can have somebody to do that with me, that would be freaking spectacular. And I think I've already got these things lined up, but I don't want to, give you or get you any shit. But you seem to be kind of resilient to that, so I'm good with that. And on that note, we're in the last couple minutes of the show. We're actually in the last minute of the show. I want to thank everybody for your support, for tuning in. Please, if you like what you saw tonight, please share it. Because and like it, if it ends up on anywhere, I might end up posting this on YouTube. I didn't swear too much in it or do too many bad things, so that's good. Again, we're in like the last minute of the show. What are we at? Last 30 seconds of the show. So on that note, thank you very much, everyone. Good night and God bless. Task Force, I'll be talking to you soon.
Have a nice day. Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.